Chapter 3 The Adventure of the Lost Sir Ardent. This city, by the way, was a place of much delight and comeliness. Its gates of silver stood wide against their marble pillars, and the walls and towers were decked with flowers and clothed with vines. Nor was there any sign of arms to check the peaceful traveler, for there were no guards at the gate, no sentinels upon the walls. Moreover, on the pillar of the gate stood the proclamation in letters of gold: "For the pilgrim of this splendid way, there is rest and peace in this city, the city of good intent." Sir Constant came here on a day at noon, and the place seemed very gracious in the midst of the dusky way. Yet before he would enter he gave thought to the matter, for he could not remember that such a city had been named as one of his resting places. But there was in this region a city called Dangerous, and he feared that this might be the same. So he sat down on a grassy bank without the gate, and took his refreshment while he watched all that went on. There was a little stir about the gate, for it seems that the city was a place of rest rather than a place of traffic. Ever and anon one would come up and read the proclamation and go in, but he could not see that any came out. Within were gardens and fountains and pleasant roads, shaded from the sun, but there was no thunder of hoofbeats, no sound of toil, no clang of martial arms. He saw men pass along the shaded roads or linger by the fountains among the flowers. They moved quietly, with peace upon their brow. But ere he had waited long, he saw a strange thing. There was a lodge by the gate, and beside the lodge a great bell. In a little while a stern old man came out of the lodge, and took the rope of the bell and rang, so that suddenly a great clamor burst upon the air and rolled far along the sunny ramparts of the city. Clear and mighty, urgent and commanding, was that brazen voice, so that the silver gates rang with sound, the trees quivered, the walls and towers gave sonorous answer. In the city men paused and looked up and listened, some striking their hands upon their brows in sudden bewildered awakening, while others quickened their steps as though to escape the sound. But soon the bell ceased its clamor, the echoes slowly died away, and there was a great peace upon the strange and silent city. The old man, having rung his bell, would have entered his lodge again, but Sir Constant went up to him eagerly, for he had seen that the ringer wore the emblem of the great king. "I am of the same service," he said, "and I would not enter the city, lest it should be the city dangerous. Tell me, I pray you, the story of the city and the bell." Kindly the old man looked upon him, marking his gallant shield and his attire stained with the dust of the way. "It is well you enter not this city," he said. "Those who enter it fall under its spell, which is a deadly spell. Full many of gallant knight hath ventured there, thinking no evil, but he comes out no more." "Yet it is a fair city," said Sir Constant. "In all your journey you shall not find a fairer," said the old man. "But say this, that it is a beautiful city as the city we seek, far over the eastern hills. But its danger lies in its beauty and peace, and its fair welcome to the traveler. For who shall look for peril when he sees only peace and rest and welcome, with no sign of arms or toil or chains? Yet the spell is a power that has held captive the strongest heart, And this city is one of the most false and deadly of all the perils that beset the knights of the king's service. For the victims of the spell dream of great and noble deeds, and know not that they are dreaming only. And while they dream, the swift hours fly by, and the crowding years until their time is gone. And through the spell of this city, they never find the city beyond the hills. And the bell? Said Sir Constant. Is this by command of the king? Yes, it is, Sir Knight. By his command I am set here. The bell, and ever and anon I ring the bell to rouse the dreamers. Nay, I go sometimes into the city and seek those who are lost and entreat them to come forth. But they love me not, for they love their dreams, and it is with anger and scorn that they drive me forth. So here I stay with my bell, and seek to wake them from their sleep. So hear me, and wake and take up their arms, and I send them on their way with great joy. But these are few indeed, so deadly is this enchantment. And is there any service that I may do here? Said Sir Constant. If there were one in this city who loved you well, you might serve him, said the old man. The voice of love is oft more heated than my bell. Tell me, where are you from and who are your friends? Then Constant told him of Sir Fortis, and lo, the old man knew him. A great and noble knight, he said, whose name is renowned throughout the way. Then shouldst you know Ardent, who was also of the household of Sir Fortis. He was my friend and comrade, said Sir Constant. Has he passed this way? Alas, said the old man, many days past he came to this city, and read the proclamation on the gate, and dared to enter. Vainly I warned him, for he laughed my fears to scorn. But the days have passed, and the spell prevails, and Sir Ardent, fearless and gallant, is lost to the king's service. Nay, I went into the city and sought him and found him, but all my pleading was in vain, for such was the spell of his dreams, that he could not understand my words. Then was Sir Constant grieved to his heart, and hung his head for shame and sorrow. His faith in Ardent had been great, for the strong hope that was his, and the eager heart, and the gracious spirit. And it was to him a grievous thing that so fair a knight should have fallen thus. Tell me how I may serve Sir Ardent, he cried. Shall I go and seek him? I would not pass on and leave him here in peril. That is well spoken, said the old man. It is permitted for you to enter the city, for there is a way to steel your heart against his snare, and this can be if you keep steadily before you the vision of the face. And I will go with you, and lead you to the house of Ardent. But I bid you be full and prudent, and care, and of humble heart, for the enchantment of this place is very deadly. Then our good knight fortified himself with his love for Sir Ardent, in his memory of the good Sir Fortis, whom he longed to please in this manner. But more than all he strengthened his heart with the memory of the chapel of voices, and with the face of love that was the guide and the glory of the splendid way. Then he drew his sword and took his shield upon his arm and said, I am ready. So the stern old man, walking closely at his side, led him in by the open gate. Within the city there was no man who questioned them of their business, or sought to stay their journey. There were many men, but each seemed to live in his own world. taking knowledge of no other. They smiled as they passed, but it was a smile of the lips only, for their eyes were full of dreams. And everywhere was peace, in the fragrance of flowers, in glowing sunlight and pleasant shade. There was no sound of hoof or axe or hammer, no stir of haste, no whisper of unrest. On that peace and stillness, the tread of mailed feet broke with startling sound. But here is no danger of arms, said the knight in a little while. Therefore may I sheathe my sword. Nay, said the old man, keep the sword drawn. It hath another use than warfare. Some may see it and remember. The air of the city enfolded them, and it was a shroud of warmth and sweetness and languor. The knight breathed it, and for a moment rejoiced in it. But in a little while he felt the weight of his arms. They oppressed him greatly. Never had that stout shield seemed so weighty, the mail so cumbersome, and when he looked he saw that others had felt the same oppression. For no man in that city bore arms. Some of them had the bearing of knighthood, but they had doffed their armor, and went about lightly in silk and linen. So presently he said to the old man, there is no danger here, and the air oppresses. I will leave my shield, therefore, and other pieces of my mail, and take them up when we come back this way. Nay, said the old man, for you would, when thou wouldst never come back this way, what but an evil spell would rob you of your arms? Then the knight remembered how he had won his arms, and how they had served him nobly and well, and a hot shame burned him. And when some of the dreamers saw him, tall in mail and helm, with the shield of the emblem and the shining sword, they stood and gazed, filled with wonder and with troubled thoughts. And there were some who were roused from their dreams in this way, and later came out of the city and continued their journey. Yet a little, and our knight came to the place of glorious vistas. He saw far before him, yet not so far, a path that led over the eastern hills, and at the end of the path a city more fair and glorious than any that man ever seen. Its gates and walls, its pinnacles and towers, shone with radiance like unto the light of the sun, and it was so great in extent that the eye might not measure it. And ever up the shining path went the knights of the splendid way, to be welcomed at the gates by guards in glowing white. Above the wall of the golden gate flew a banner of pure white, bearing an emblem worked in gold, the emblem of the great king. So glorious was the vision that Sir Constant was fain to pause, but the old man rebuked and forbade him. They all see these things, he said. All those who are lost to the royal service. Seek one vision only, for that vision is the vision for you, and on to save your friend. Even as he spoke, the vision passed like a mirage, for the words the knight had called back the vision of the face. There was nothing where the vision had been, save the trees and flowers of the city, and its unceasing sunshine. After this there were many enchantments, both of thought and sight, but our knight denied them resolutely, keeping ever in his mind the vision of the face. They also met some who would have begged him to enter their houses for rest and pleasure, But here his guide was his guard. For when these citizens saw the stern old man, they turned aside and went their way, making it plain that he was no welcome guest in that city. They came without hurt through the sleeping streets to the house of Ardent. It was a spacious house, and its gardens looked over the city wall to the plain beyond, bounded by cloudy hills. The door stood open, and there was none to stay them. So the old man led Sir Constant through the house to the gardens. On every hand was the beautiful was the beauty of the city of good intent, in flowing tapestry, in rich painting, in flowers of many hues, in many perfumes. Our knight saw the paintings and the tapestries, and wondered, for the dreamer who dwelt here had adorned his house with all the glory of conquest. But there was nothing that spoke of the dust of the wave, or the heat of the sun at noon, or the fainting heart that fears the morrow, yet holds grimly to the rugged path. One only was the story that the pictures told. They found Sir Ardent in the arbor in the garden, resting among a wealth of flowers. He lay like a child after play, but they were sorry playthings that were strewed beside him. A shield discolored by damp and dust, with little of its emblem left to see. A sword half drawn, showing the blade rusted and ruined. A noble helm, so marred that no man might wear it without shame. All his mail was there, but it made so graceless a sight that Sir Constant's heart burned for it. As for Sir Ardent, he lay smiling and looking over the city wall to the hills beyond the plain, and in his dreamy eyes were visions that no other man might see. He saw Sir Constant, but with neither wonder nor welcome. "Is it you, old friend?" he said. "Gladly will I welcome you when I have seen all. But wait a little while, for this glorious scene must not be lost. There is this splendid way changed to a wide white road at last, and shaded by palms and orange groves. Far off, but yet not far, are the gates of the great city, where a banner flies, the banner of the great king. Can you not see?" But Sir Constans could not see, for there was nothing but a dreary plain beyond the wall. "O Ardent," he cried, "this dream of yours is an evil spell that must destroy you. Awake and rise ere it be too late." But Sir Ardent heeded not. "Hearken," he said, "far off upon the way walks a knight, a good knight and true, his shield upon his arm, and his mail bright and shining. Never once has he failed or faltered, and now the great city lies close at hand. He lifts his eyes, and his heart leaps for joy. Then out from the gate they ride, a noble cavalcade, guards and servants of the king, with golden chains and many laurels. They cry the name of the traveler with great acclaim, and the name is Ardent." Now Sir Constant gave a cry of pain and sorrow. "Nay," he said bitterly, "there is no city, there is no knight. Dry and barren is the plain, barren are your dreams. There is no glory for you are but a foolish dreamer with rusted arms. Awake and come with me." But Sir Ardent lay unheeding, and still he heeded not when Constant took the ruined shield and held it before him, and took the rusted sword and laid it upon his knee. Still he gazed upon the vision that was not, and dreamed the dream that could never be true. And the old man said, bitterness is of no avail. If he may be reached at all, it will be by another road. So Constant knelt down at his friend's side, and took his hand in his own hand, and he spoke gently to him of the days long ago, when they were squires together in the hall of Sir Fortis. He spoke of the goodness of that old knight, of his mercy and courage, and then he spoke of the dreams they had dreamed together, of the comradeship which had joined them, and of the help that each had given the other in the practice of arms. And Sir Ardent seemed to turn for a moment from his false dreams, for he looked into his friend's face with softened eyes and clasped his hand with nerveless fingers, but he was not awakened. Then Sir Constant spoke of other and greater things, of the chapel of voices, of the armor lying in the evening shadows, in the casement looking eastwards, in the stout heart that had won through to the morning. When he spoke of these things, the eyes of Ardent came back from the vision of the plain, and found his friend's eyes, and there remained, a little dreaming still, but with trouble growing in their depths, like a shadow on the sea. So Constant spoke on, still keeping his hand upon him, and told of the star that came to the head of the casement. He told of the glory of the star, how it grew in the darkness until it seemed to be a jewel in a thorny crown above a face divine. Began to tell of the face, how it looked upon the knight kneeling in his vigil, and the wonderful love which it looked, a love that no man may measure. He said all that a man may say of that love, for no man's words may say all. And at the end he pleaded that his friend should remember, and go once more to seek the vision of the face, so that the love in those divine eyes should not be mocked and fruitless. For though my love for you is great, he said, it is but a shadow of that love, and he who loves us is waiting for the strong knight who went forth for him. Surely he shall not wait in vain. Now long before Constant had come to an end, the face of Sir Ardent was changed. Its foolish smile was gone, and the last of the dream had vanished from his troubled eyes. With an awakened mind he followed the story, and trod once more the path of the lonely chapel, knelt once more by the silent armor, looked once more for the star in the casement. Thereafter he sat with quivering lips in silence, but listening intently. So the face grew before him, and the love in the eyes, the love which may not be measured, and once more the glory of the vision swept over him, and drove his false dreams away forever. Then he gave a great cry, "Oh, my Lord, my Lord!" Then Sir Constant rose, and lifted him up, and embraced him. But Sir Ardent, once awakened, was as a man mad. He saw his friend's arms, strong and clean and knightly, and he looked upon his own rusted mail with terror and dismay. He seized the sword and drew it, and flung it from him, and he wept over the shield so sadly dishonored. He looked out beyond the wall and saw a barren plain with the shadow of a dream. And he looked about him at the garden, in the house and the flowers of idle fancy, and he groaned and said, I am undone. Nay, cried Sir Ardent, it is not yet too late, or I could not be here. Take up your arms, and we will leave this deadly city together. But Sir Ardent turned to the old man. Guide and counselor scorned, he said, what have you to say to me? Am I not lost forever? You have done ill, said the old man sternly. Is there not a grievous story in your rusted arms and wasted day? But the king is merciful, and it is not too late until he has spoken the word. I am his messenger, and the messenger of mercy. But your course is clear, to don your arms and leave the city, and once more attempt the splendid way. Then shall you be in the path of the king's good pleasure. Then Sir Ardent wept, for his content was gone, and his self-esteem a broken thing. But in his weeping he went to his armor, and took up pieces, and began to put on with unready fingers, and with stumbling haste. Sir Constant aided him, and the old man helped him also, so that presently the pieces were in place. But it was a sore thing to see how hard it was for him to bear, and how cumbersome they seemed. Such was the deadly work upon him of those long months in the city of good intent. He wept again as he strove to burnish them, so that his tears fell upon the shield of shame. But his friends heartened him as they might, so that at last he was mailed and helmed. Then they led him out through the garden and the house, through the long sunny ways of the city to the fair gate of false promises. Now the city was, as before, fair and green and peaceful, but it had no longer any power of enchantment. Never more would its spells have sway over the knight who had been awakened. And Sir Constant was so moved by his friend's despair that he only desired to leave the place forever. So with haste they pressed through the sunny ways, speaking to no man as they passed. But there were dreamers who saw them go, the knight in shining arms and the knight in rusted mail, and stood and watched with strangely troubled gaze. And thereafter it is said, others were awakened, and presently armed themselves also and pursued their journey. For the good knight who does a stout deed makes the whole world his debtor. So they came to the gate, and passed out to the stony paths and the fresh breezes of the splendid way. And there by the lodge of the bell they said farewell to the old man, its guardian. Ere they went, he blessed Sir Constant for his deed, and then Sir Ardent knelt before him, and he blessed him also. You shall be a faithful knight hereafter, he said, and by the king's grace you shall be glorious yet. For the way is a long way, and you are needed for many battles. Nor is it day's end until the sunset hour. So he sped them both, and stood and watched them as they passed from the city into the way that marched beyond. And presently, when he was lost to sight, they surely heard him, for the great bell pealed and sang, clanging its message to the city of dreams. Once more, from a little hill, they saw that city again, lying still and white in the evening sunshine, as fair a place as any man may see. But in the king's council it is written down, a city dangerous, for duty waits without and calls in vain. Then Ardent, heavy-hearted, turned away, sore for the rusted armor and the wasted days. But as he turned, Sir Constant saw his shield, and lo! the lost emblem of the king was shining once more through its veil of dishonor. For the heart's tears of sorrow had fallen upon the shield, and where they had fallen, they had burned away the shame and stain. Nothing, let nothing be done through strife and vainglory, but in lowliness of mind let's each esteem others better than themselves. Look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Philippians 2:3 and 4. For it is God which works in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. Do all things without murmurings and disputings, that you may be blameless and harmless, the sons of God, without rebuke, in the midst of a crooked and perverse nation, among whom you shine as lights in the world. Philippians 2:13 to 15.